Hi guys, this is Michael and I'm back with another video about packaging design and 3D. And in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I turn a flat label or packaging design into a highly realistic 3D product render. I will also show you how you can mix different materials like glossy or metallic materials in 3D, and it's exactly how it looks like in real life with all the different printing techniques and finishes that you can use. So right now I am in Illustrator and I have here the file that we will use for this project. So this one is for a deodorant brand, and I will share the link to this file in the description box below so you can download it and you can use it to follow along. So as you can see here, we have the die line of the label. We have here the blue line, which is the trim line, and then this pink or red one as the bleed. So you can see here when we go to the layer section that I divided it into multiple layers. We have a layer for a die line. We have a layer for our metallics, which is also the gray areas. And we also have like the main design layer and also the background. So the first thing that I will do is to export this file. Now I want to export this in two ways. The first one is with a die line, and we'll use the one with the lines to sort of guide us when we do the design in 3D. And then I'll show you later how that works. We'll export this as a PNG. So now that we have the label exported, we also have to create another, what we call UV map. So basically, this UV map is a black and white representation of the label. And then we'll use this to define which ones are, for example, the glossy materials and which one is the metallic material. So what I'm gonna do is, let's see if anything is locked. So what we'll do is duplicate this layer over here. So what I'm gonna do is to remove most of the design elements. Then what I will retain are the metallic elements. Even this one, we will remove this. Okay, so I think I just have to duplicate this one. Paste it in our background. And then we'll change this to a fill with a black color. And then for this one, all of the metallic elements will be converted to white. So since this text shouldn't be like metallic, I will make this black as well. Then make this one white. This like inverted pentagon, and even this one like this. So basically what this means is that everything in black are the areas which is another material, and everything is white is another material as well. In this case, it's the metallic. So I'm gonna export this as UV metal. So now that we have the labels and the UV maps for the metallics, I think we can now start working on the 3D model. So I'm gonna do the 3D model in Blender, which is a free software. I'll also put the link in the description below so you can download it. So right now we are in Blender and this is how it looks like. So for this video, I would assume that you have like a basic working knowledge of the program. And I will also turn on the screencast keys. That way you know, or you can see what I'm pressing as I'm doing my process in 3D modeling. And before we do the actual work, I think it's important to highlight three main reasons why I like to do 3D renders. So the first one is to have a highly realistic representation of the product. And a 3D program, I think, offers a lot of flexibility in terms of materials, and we can modify it exactly how we want it to look. Number two is for the perspective of your client. I think it's important for them to see how the product would look like before production because it gives them the confidence to move forward. It's also easier to sell your ideas this way. And then, lastly, as a freelancer or a designer artist, I think this is one way to elevate your packages, one way to upsell your services. You can add 3D modeling, 3D rendering, and then maybe you can bump up or increase your rates. So those are three main reasons why I like to do this. Okay, so let's start with the actual 3D modeling. So the first thing that I will do is to pull up a reference image. So for this one, I have a file that I will also share with you. What you can do is hit Shift A and then create image reference. Use this one. Using G, I will move this so the base aligns with the axis, and then change here the opacity to a lower value. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is to create a circle. So Shift A, mesh, let's create a circle. You can modify here the number of vertices. So 32 is too much, I think. We'll go with 16. So you can see here in the top view the circle. Then what I'm going to do is go to edit mode using tab, then select all vertices, and then hit EZ to extrude it upwards. So we have like sort of a cylinder, and then this one would have like open ends. So here you can press F, and then you can also select the vertices here using Shift, Alt, click, then F. Okay, so the first thing that I will do is work on the top part. So with the vertices selected, I will inset using I, and then E to extrude upwards. So this one is the part that will hold the ball part or the circular part of the deodorant. Now what I'm gonna do next is to add a modifier. So this is a subdivision surface modifier. We'll bump this to 3. So right now it looks weird because it's adding a lot of like subdivisions. What I'm gonna do is go to edit mode. For the bottom part, I'm gonna do is select all the vertices. Make sure you are in X-ray mode so you can select all vertices. And then I'm gonna inset I. And then I'm gonna do another inset. And then going back to the front view, now what I'm gonna do is to create edge loops. So Control R will create an edge loop. Then we'll pull this up to tighten the edges. Then another one downwards. So you can see here it has a more defined edge. Similarly, for the bottom part, let's add another one here. And then you may have noticed that the bottle has like an elevated bottom part. So what I'm going to do is switch to this face select. Select this one, and then I'm going to do G to move Z upwards. Something like this. And then again, we can tighten the edges. Control R here. Then another edge here. Like that. And then let's now work on the top part. We'll add more edge loops. Control R, Control R, Control R, until you get like a really nice shape of the bottle. Another one here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is to right click and then shade smooth. Now I want to create the inner part of the bottle or the jar. So going back to edit mode, I'm gonna select this using face select. Then again in set I to create like a little bit of thickness, and then we will go to front view, X-ray, extrude this downwards to here, about here, then extrude again. This time you're gonna do S to scale and then extrude it downwards again up to here. So again, it's gonna look a little bit weird because it has subdivisions, so we have to add edge loops inside. Make sure that it's inside. Here as well. And also upwards and here. So right now we have a really nice base or the bottle part of the deodorant. So next, I'll go to edit mode. Then I will select this set of vertices, like this one. What I'm gonna do is click Shift S, cursor to selected. So this will move the 3D cursor to our selection. Because what I'm gonna do is to create like the spiral part, the one that you use to lock the product. So to do that is I'm gonna go to object mode, Shift A, then let's create a curve, spirals, Archimedean. So we want to change the height and also create around 2 turns. It's a bit too wide, so we reduce the radius so it's touching the bottle. You can also scale this down again. So I will select this and go to the curve properties. Under geometry, so under bevel, let's create a depth. So around 0.2 would be nice, I think. So right now it has like a little bit of thickness. Resolution to increase like the quality. So maybe let's use 16. And then let's toggle this fill caps. So if we go to, scale this down a bit. If we go to the side view using numpad 3, we can see the start and the end of the spiral. But right now it's it looks like a little bit blocky, and I want the end of the spiral to have like a little bit of taper. That way it attaches smoothly to the bottle. What I'm gonna do is use Alt S, go to edit mode, select this vertex, and then Alt S to scale. So that will taper the ends. And of course, The vertex next to that will also scale this one using Alt S. And then this one as well. Okay, so going back to the front view, we'll right click this one and shade smooth as well. Okay, so next I'll move the 3D cursor again, this time by using this set of vertices, then Shift S, cursor to selected. So what I'm gonna do next is to create the ball or the roll on. So Shift A, it's gonna be a UV sphere. Then I'll scale this down just so it is touching the edges like this. And then again, right click, shade smooth. Maybe we can also add a subdivision to this. There. So right now we have the base and the roll on. The next part would be the cap. So as you can see here, let me increase the opacity of this as well. It is like a rounded top. So what I'm gonna do again, select this one, maybe work on the set of vertices, then move the 3D cursor to this area. Then in object mode, I will create, this time we'll use a cylinder instead of a circle. Scale this down. Move this upwards. I think it should be around here. Okay, so with the top vertices selected, create a bevel. That's Control B, Command B. So right now it's looking very sharp, and this is because this is just like 0 edge loops. What you can do is scroll up or scroll down your mouse to add more subdivisions, and as you add more subdivisions, it becomes, rounder smoothly. So about this much, I think. There. Then I'm gonna add again subdivision surface to this, and again it's gonna look weird. Oops. Go to edit mode. So another way that I like to work on tightening the edges is to select this one and then just hit E to extrude. And then we'll add another edge loop, Control R, to tighten this one. So this one looks really nice. Again, right click and shade smooth. So right now we have a nice looking 3D model of the product. Before we go to the next part, I think it's important to create or do little details or fine tuning to make this really realistic. Sometimes what determines realism is the details that you add to the bottles. For example, this one, as you can see in the reference image, it has like a curve part here. So what we can do is to adjust the vertices. For example, we can select this one, move this downwards. So moving it slightly already creates a smooth curve. We can also select this set of vertices and then move it downwards to create a little bit more of curve. And similarly, we can do it for the bottom part. We can select this, move it upwards, and this one as well, like that. And then for the cap, if you go to the X-ray mode, you can see that it's just like a hollow, thin material, but in reality, it has like a little bit of thickness. So what we can do is to add a modifier. We can add a solidify modifier, and then if you change this one, it will increase the thickness. Maybe lower it down a little bit, something like this. So now that we have the final 3D model, we can now proceed to the next part. So, and I hope that you realize that it's actually not that difficult to create 3D models. What happens with like those who are just starting out with Blender is they get really intimidated. What you can do is to start with something simple, start with something small, and then maybe as you go along, as you create more models, you try to increase the difficulty so you can achieve like more complex models on your next renders. So we're now ready to move forward to the next step, which is adding materials to this and also laying out the labels that we did in Illustrator. So we can now delete this reference image, or maybe you can just hide it for now. Okay. So when I do the materials and labels, I create another set of windows. You can do that by hovering here, then pulling it down or sideways. So this one would be the shader editor. This one would be a UV editor. Okay, so let's go to material preview. So let's first create the label. So again, going back to edit mode, I'm gonna add then what we can do is go to face selection and alt shift click this part. Then this will select all the faces. You can duplicate this using Shift D, right click, and then press P to separate by selection. And then this will create another copy of that part. So if you go to the solid view, you can see that there are artifacts here, and that's because it's overlapping with the bottle. What I like to do is to scale this up a bit using S. Then while holding Shift, you can move your mouse until the artifacts disappear. Then we can rename this to label. Maybe we can also organize our collection. The sphere, name is as ball, circle, this is the body, the cylinder is the cap, spiral, just spiral I guess. Then we can select all of these, then hit M to create a new collection model. Okay, going back to the materials view, select your label and then go to the shader editor. What we'll do is click add a new material. So next is to pull up the image or the label design that we just did. I'll start with the DO label with the die line lines. You can just drag and drop it and then connect the yellow circles. So it's not showing right now, but what I can do is go to edit mode, select all the vertices, and then you can use U to unwrap conformal. So it will give us a UV projection that is not looking good. It looks really weird. Another way you can do this is to use, since this is a cylinder, you can try cylinder projection. So that will give us really nice like rectangles to work with. In the UV editor, you can just scale this down SY. You just have to align it on the trim lines SY and then SX like this. Then we can rotate this label to show the front part. So right now the label aligns well with our product, but it's a little bit stretched out, and this is because I think the product is a little bit wide. So maybe what we can do is to scale this down using S and Shift Z, something like that. Ideally, you want to use the actual dimensions of the deodorant model, but right now we just actually estimated using the reference image. So I think this one is much nicer. We can adjust the height a little bit, something like this. So now we have the labels on our product. What I like to do as best practice is to add also an RGB curve here and then pull this down a little bit. Sometimes the colors in Blender tends to be a little bit washed out, and using this somehow corrects the color. Then aside from the RGB curve, I think it's also best practice to scale this to its actual size in real life. I think this body is around 15 centimeters. If you go hit N and then go to item, you can see that the height of this one is 3.29 meters, which is not realistic. I will scale this down. But before that, what we can do is to select the ball, the cap using control while holding control, the label and the spiral, and then we'll select the body last, and then hit Control P or Command P to parent, and then keep transform. That way, when we modify the scale of the body, everything scales down as well. So with this selected, hit S, it will be so much smaller until we reach the Z part around 1.5, something like this. So we have to scale, zoom in a little bit. So the reason why I want to scale this down to its actual size is because objects tend to behave properly under the influence of different lighting when it's in its proper size. So from here, let's go Shift S and put the cursor to the world origin. Then let's create like a plane. This one. Go to edit mode. Select this edge and extract this. So we have like a nice platform. Then you can select this one, then control bevel, control B to create like a curve bevel. You can again increase the amount of segments like this one. Right click, shade smooth. Then let's go to the rendered view. I think we need a light source. So there are different ways on how you can light a scene. One of my favorite ways is using HDRI. So going to the shader editor, you can toggle this to the world view, and then we can create Shift A, search for environment texture, connect this one, and then I will just use an HDR that I always use, this one. Then maybe lower down the strength. Wait. We also have another light source, which is the default light source. I'm gonna change this to a lower value. Then maybe we can move it near our product. Let's also create the camera view. So with the camera selected, Control or Command Alt 0 to create a camera view. We can adjust this one. Let's hit G to zoom out. So for product renders like this, I like to use a focal length of 75 or 100. So right now it's also vertically aligned or oriented. Let's change the resolution to 1920 by 1080. Go to top view and then change the location of the light source somewhere here. Then change this to a much lower value. Okay, so now we have a nice view of the product. I'll go back to object and then change the other materials of this one. So with the body selected, let's create another material. This time, we're not using the principled BSDF. Delete this using X. Then Shift A and then search for a glass material. Then connect this one to the surface. So as you can see here, it's as if the glass material is not working properly. It looks a little bit weird. If I move it here, you can see it looks weird. And I suspect it's because the normals are flipped. If you go here to overlays and then click the face orientation, you can see that it's oriented in the wrong way, and that's indicated by this red color. So what I'm gonna do is select the bottle and then Shift A, go to mesh, normals, flip. And then this one as well. Mesh, normals, flip. So for this glass material, what I'm gonna do is to make it a little bit rough or translucent. I'm gonna change the roughness to a higher value, IOR to 1.4. And then we also need to change the material of the ball. I'm gonna name this as the glass material. Then with the ball selected, you can apply the same material, the glass material. Then maybe duplicate this one because I want this to be slightly more rough. And then for this one, I'm also gonna add another material. This time I want a teal colored cap. Maybe I'll just have to eyedrop this one change this to a lighter color. And then you can also change the properties of the materials using these sliders. If you wanted to make it a little bit metallic, change it this one. Roughness determines how shiny or matte your material is. A low value is a shiny one, and then a high value is a matte. Okay, so we have now the base labels and materials, but what I want to do is to create like a metallic effect. So to do that, with the label selected, I'm gonna create another one, search for mix shader. Then I'm gonna pull up, drag this here, and then I will connect this to the factor. Then this one, the first material we did, let's connect it to this shader. Then don't forget to connect this one to the surface. So as you can see, it separated it into two parts, this one and the metallic parts. To define this metallic area, let's create another principled BSDF. Connect it to this one, and then make it metallic. Then darken the color a little bit. So right now you can't see it properly. It's because of our lighting. But if you move this on the side, you can see that this one has a metallic finish like this. So later we'll fix the lighting so we can show that in our front view. At this point, it's just a matter of fixing the lighting setup and also maybe move the product a little bit. I want to maybe tilt it to a certain angle just to give it like a dynamic pose or movement. Maybe we can change the background. Let's also add a new material. Can we try something with a light teal color? And then with the body selected, then maybe the camera, we can zoom it out a little bit, select the body, and then rotate it using R to this angle. You can definitely experiment on different angles on how you want to present the product. For our light, lower this down a little bit. And then what I want to do is create another light source, Shift A light, and a spotlight. Scale this down, make it smaller. Top view, we move this to this side. You can adjust the spot size. Then what I like to do is to hit Shift T, and then you can point it directly to the product like this. Then of course we will change it to a much lower value. And then I want to create another light source, so to accentuate like the metallic layer. Maybe we can adjust this to a lighter one. Then create a light source, an area light this time. Or rotate. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Let's see how that looks. So I want to move this here, maybe rotate it a little bit. So I want this to show this part has like a metallic texture. We can make it like a little bit slimmer. Then move it around here. Then really lower down the power of this one. It's just for a minor detail. We don't want to blow out the metallic part that it's not like readable anymore. So we just have to do like some minor adjustments. So right now this looks really amazing. It looks really good. It looks dynamic, and we highlighted the metallic part. So what I want to do now is to render this one just to see where we are at and if we still need to do some adjustment. So hit F12 to render this one, and we just have to wait for it to finish. So it has finished rendering, and now we have a really nice looking 3D render of the product. So as you can see, we have here a realistic looking mock-up, and we also managed to incorporate two materials to our design. We have like the base one, and then some parts of it are metallic. So if you like this type of content, I am very happy to share that I will also be launching a Patreon, and that will heavily focus on packaging design and 3D product visualization. So right now I'm offering a free subscription for early patrons, and I will continuously add more content to that page. So you can use the link in the description as well to go to the Patreon page. I hope that you learned a lot from this video, and I hope that you can apply the process and the techniques that I've shown here to your next project. Again, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the description box below, and I'll see you in the next video.